Hello, and welcome to Inland Empire Alive, bringing you issues, events, and perspectives from throughout San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I'm Manny Sandoval, owner and news editor for Inland Empire Community News, sitting in for David Brady. And in today's episode, I'll welcome Diana Ellsworth, a stay-at-home mother for nearly 20 years, whose dream of a career in nursing became a heartwarming story of handmade donations during the global pandemic. That's today on Inland Empire Alive. We're here today with Diana Ellsworth, a registered nurse at San Bernardino Community Hospital. Diana, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you've been up to a lot. Let's say the past 20 years. I heard that you were a stay-at-home mother for 20 years. And what inspired that decision to take on nursing?
Well, like you said, I stayed home with my children for about 18, 20 years. And then I started working for the Rialto School District as actually as an attendance officer, kind of a truant officer, and then into a secretary. And I worked with some people that another nurse, another worker that was in the program, the nursing program at Valley, and she kind of helped encourage me to go back to school. I was always kind of afraid to go back to school, not thinking I could do it. And but she helped to encourage me, and I finally just made that step and decided to go back to school, and I started taking classes. I had to start at the ground zero because I hadn't taken any classes before, and so I started doing it, and just always wanted to be a nurse. I had some family members that had some medical problems throughout the years, and just enjoyed the hospital setting and the care that the nurses gave to other people.
That's amazing. And so you mentioned earlier San Bernardino Valley College. That's where you attended school. You took classes there. You were on the wait list for the program for about 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
And once you got into the program, what was that sort of coursework like?
Well, it took me about 2 years to get my prereqs done, and then I applied for the program. And like you said, a 2-year wait list. And then I finally got that call, and I was just really nervous and scared because I was going to I had to leave my other job, and was not going to be working for 2 years and go into a program that I never worked in a hospital, so I wasn't even sure that, if I was going to like it, if I would be good at it or anything. And so I was very scared.
A ginormous leap of faith right there.
Yeah. So, but I did it, and to be honest, nursing school is hell. And you spend 2 years of doing nothing but studying. And it's a difficult program, but very worth it.
So, there might be someone out there who may be watching this, who might be in the shoes you were in previously with a desire to pursue a specific career. And you mentioned that while you were taking these classes, the program, and you mentioned you weren't working. How does one get by during that time?
Well, thankfully I had a good husband, and he supported me during that time. And so some people, students are able to work like part-time and so forth during the program. And there's a lot of financial aid out there to help. And I was also accepted into the partnership program with San Bernardino Community Hospital and Valley College, where they gave us a stipend to help with expenses during that time. And then in exchange for that, you agreed to work for San Bernardino Community Hospital for 2 years afterwards. And so after I graduated, I was offered a job there and stayed my 2 years, and then decided to just stay there because I enjoyed working there.
So you've been there for over a decade now, correct?
Yeah, about 12 and a half years, yeah.
Wow. So 12 and a half years, that means you were there through the pandemic. What was that like just as a nurse? What were you guys experiencing inside the walls of the hospital?
Well, that was a very difficult time because in the beginning there was so many unknowns and not knowing what kind of precautions we needed to take and what not having enough PPE, you know, the gowns and masks and so forth that we needed. And then just taking care of the patients and always having to, it was a lot of work because every time you went into a room you had to gown up and mask and facial mask and everything. So it was just a very difficult time and a very emotional time because a lot of patients, you know, didn't make it through that, and they were alone during that time, and so that was difficult for those patients to be there and not be able to have their family members with them, and for the family members not to be able to be there. So there were times when we would try and use, like, you know, their phones or iPad or something to, you know, connect with their families outside of the hospital.
And that had to have been exhausting for yourself and the nursing staff that is in the hospitals. How did you and some of your, you know, immediate coworkers cope with that whole just chaotic madness that we were all experiencing, but you guys even more in depth because you were in the trenches?
I think, you know, a lot of people have, you know, were really burned out after the pandemic and had a difficult time, and it was, you know, just a hard time to think back of and think about, you know, all those people that didn't make it during that time. You know, we tried our best, you know, to be there for those patients, you know, and give them the emotional support that they couldn't get from their families at that time. And so emotionally it was difficult for a lot of nurses, and so.
And what's so inspiring about hearing that is you mentioned the word support, but at a time when you probably needed support from, you know, enduring all of that in your daily work life, you still found the time to make face masks for the staff, right, at the hospital. Tell me about that, and how did that come into fruition?
Well, in the beginning of the pandemic, you know, there wasn't a lot of supplies, and so I started making them. And then actually in October of 2020, I was out running, and I fell and I broke my foot. And so I was off for about 5 months, and that was during some of the worst times of the pandemic. And so I couldn't do a whole lot with a broken foot. So, so I sat there in my sewing room and made masks, and then I learned there was a need for surgical caps for the nurses also, because so, you know, you couldn't even order them from like the uniform stores or anything. Nobody just had anything. And so I used whatever materials I had at home, and then I had the idea, I was running out of materials, so I had the idea of using our old uniforms. So I'd tell the nurses, you know, just bring me some of your old uniforms, and I would cut up the uniforms and make the caps and things out of those. And and then I would have someone take them to the hospital and just hand them out to whoever needed them.
When you talk about, you know, you made the face masks, how many of them did you make?
Oh, gosh, I really don't know. Hundreds, I guess. I don't know.
Got it. Well,
Yeah.
just so you know, you're a local celebrity, because I think you walked into the door and I said, oh, I already know who she is, because I had already read multiple stories and published a couple of stories that Dignity Health shared with us. But so also too, moving away from just the face masks, you also helped make recently, I think, at the subacute center at your guys' hospital, correct?
Right.
What did you donate?
Well, the subacute center is for children 0 to 18, so it's children that have, you know, medical problems that prevent them from living at home. And so, so I made the first year I made some like stuffed dogs, like a stuffed animal, and donated those. And the following year I made some little fleece blankets and pillows for them. And then I made some caps with like a ski cap with, you know, little faces on them. And this year I made some squishmallows for them, because they need like pillows and things to, like, for repositioning and different things that they needed. But it has something fun for them too.
Got it. So what's been the reception that you received from, you know, your guys' leadership and staff, specifically when you donated the face masks? What was that reception that they had?
I think everybody was very thankful for them, and the mask, we couldn't use the masks that were sewn out of fabric. We couldn't use those at the hospital, but they could use those, you know, at home when they were going out and things, and take them to family members that might need them. And and some of the head caps, I still see one every now and then that somebody's wearing. So I think they appreciated those.
That's amazing. So where did you get the inspiration and experience sewing? Like, what drew you to sewing? I'm sure that happened a while back, correct?
Right. I used to go stay with my grandmother, and she taught me how to sew, and she would have me sew squares and different things together, and so she taught me to sew, and I just have always enjoyed it and loved it, and have kind of, when I was in school and things, you know, there was no time for those kind of things, so, but the last few years I've kind of gotten back into it.
What's something that you've sewn for yourself?
Well, right now I like making quilts, and so I've been working on some quilts.
What are you working on currently?
As far as sewing?
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I finished the items for the subacute, and we donated those last week. I think they'll take them probably sometime next week out to the kids.
So creating and making all of these different items that are essential items, how has that, you know, changed your perspective into the amount of impact that one person could make?
I think it's important to try to give back, and you know, and so if this is something, you know, that I am able to do, then you know, I want to be able to help others, and you know, we all have different talents and things that we can do, and so to take those things that, you know, you're good at and, you know, share that with someone else, and especially someone that might be in need, is important.
Got it. So where can we find out more about you? Do you sort of publicize any of your items?
No.
So typically we might come across you if we're ever at San Bernardino Community Hospital.
Yeah.
But other than that, you just do this from the kindness of your heart, essentially.
I guess so, yeah.
That is amazing. Well, Diana, thank you so much for joining us. And I know you work long shifts and whatnot, so, you know, you can actually be watching TV right now or just hanging out. And so you chose to be with us and share the good work that you've been doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you for asking me to come.
If you'd like to be a guest on Inland Empire Alive, send us an email at guest@iealive.com.